Right, so I'm just going to give you a bit of an explanation about this job that we're at. So I've come to Manchester to do a Heatmiser job, and then as you can see behind me there, we've got water cylinder, big water cylinder. You've got your boiler on the wall there. You can see a lot of messy pipe work, a lot of messy cables, and then you've got a Heatmiser system over here on the wall, which I'll show you all in a minute. So what we've got with this system is the guy rang me up and he got our details off YouTube, and then I asked him to do me a walk around video, which is what we do with most or all of our customers, just so I can get an idea of the job, because we don't go driving around every job that we get, because it's just wastes a lot of time. Sometimes people are just ringing us up, you know, inquiring, and we'd basically, it'd be a full-time job just driving around and looking at things that we may or may not get, because we cover pretty much all of the UK. So it's not economical to be doing that. So what we do is we ask for a walk round video, just send it us on WhatsApp, and then when you're doing your walk round video, you just kind of describe, this is the room that we've got the thermostat going in, this is the third room, fourth room, fifth room, that's where all the thermostats are going. Kitchen, lounge, utility, dining room, whatever, downstairs toilet, like we've got on this job. And then you might have the equipment as well, so just show us that. So these are all the thermostats we've got already that were included with when the guy fitted the underfloor heating, because normally what people will do is they'll get the underfloor heating manifold as a kit, so it'll come with pipe work, the manifold, the thermostats, the UH8, the actuators, all that. So we normally get here and the underfloor heating has been filled up and it's just been left on, so it's running, there's heat in the house but it's not controlled, or we get here and it's been filled up and it's not running. That's generally as we find it, like we've got here, which I'll show you in a minute. That's what we normally ask on a video, so I can get an estimate over to you, so we can work out, you know, roughly what it's going to cost, how long it's going to take us to do it, and then I can give you an estimate based on that, and then we can arrange a date to come and actually do the work, depending on like where it is and timescales and stuff. With this particular job that I'm at now, I sent a quote over to the guy and he said, oh, that's a bit expensive for whatever it is. All you are doing is coming and fitting 5 thermostats. That's what he said, and he's like, oh, it's a bit expensive. It's like no more than 2 hours work, he said. So I was like, right. So he sent me a video, and just from the video I noticed in his garage he had a Nest thermostat, and that controls the upstairs radiator circuit. Basically, his upstairs heating is controlled by a thermostat that's reading the temperature in this cold garage that I'm standing in. So what I said to the guy is, it's not a 2-hour job. I have to allocate at least a day to that. Whether it takes me a day or not is irrelevant. There's nothing else I can do with that day, even if it took me half a day. I've travelled an 80-mile round journey to get to this job, and then when I get here I've got to actually check the existing system is functioning properly. And this is a perfect example of when we get somewhere and nothing's been done right. It's an absolute awful job, and then the system isn't even running right as a normal heating system with hot water and radiators. Never mind me coming to add some thermostats onto a system that isn't functioning properly. Just to put it into context, what we're doing here now, I'm going to show you in a minute, is the reason why we can allocate a day or 2 days. Not, oh, come for 3 hours, or we'll come for 5 hours, or that's going to take. It is not as clear as that. We're relying on other people doing their job properly, and it's very rare that they've done the job properly. So that is why something like this costs a lot of money. We're a specialist company with heating controls. We are not your average electrician that's going to come out, squeeze this in a few hours or whatever, because this is exactly what's been done here. It's a job that's been rushed, squeezed in at a cheaper rate. Now it's all going to be taken back out again and redone, so it's cost twice the amount. Get a professional in for that shorter period of time. It's not economical getting someone doing it at his mates' rates, or getting someone to do it at a cheaper rate, because that plumber was cheaper. That guy was 200 quid a day, that was 250 quid a day. This plumber was 120 quid a day. We'll go with the 120 quid a day guy. This is what you get for 120 quid, 150 quid, 180 quid a day even. There's a massive variation in cost for someone knowing exactly what they're doing and having the equipment to be able to deal with it on the day as well. I'll just show you what we've got here now and the issues that we've had so far. So the first thing you notice here is it's just an absolute mess. The plumbing and the electrical is an absolute mess. Yeah. I'm going to walk through this in a minute and explain what the problems are. So the first thing, which we've refilled the boiler now, we've got a picture. So as soon as I got here, I turned that switch on there to fire up the system, which has already been connected without any control. Yeah, so he's wired the actuators into here, left this permanently on, this pump running, these permanently on. So when the boiler fires up, it's allowing heat to flow through to the underfloor heating, and then it's getting the heat around the underfloor heating of the house. So that was, normally we'd find it at this stage, which is fine, because we know we've got to do work on it anyway. So at least he leaves the customer with some heating. Even though there's no control over it, there's still heating on the ground floor of the house after all this has been installed. So when I first got here, the boiler pressure was down to 0.5 bar, which I've now filled up. There's a water leak here, there, on the return loop. Sorry, flow, primary flow. Yeah. So there's a leak on there which is dropping his pressure in his boiler. So when I got it here, I couldn't even fire the system up because the pressure was down on the boiler, and therefore he wouldn't have any hot water in this cylinder, no radiators upstairs or any underfloor heating, because that boiler is doing all that. So the boiler pressure's down, that stops working, everything else stops working. So the only reason why you wouldn't notice straight away is that it's very warm currently, so that you don't notice that the heating's off as much as what you normally would in the winter. And then also he's got stored hot water, so yeah, he'll have a day's worth of hot water in there until he notices that the boiler isn't working, because the water's then cold. So that's why he hadn't actually noticed that the boiler pressure was down. So got this FCU here, just flapping off the wall, not fixed. All these cables here, just none of them clipped properly, all just flapping around there. This just unneat. What clips have been put in is just extremely unneat. Cables just crossing, touching hot pipe work there over the top. And then we've got this joint here, so we've got exposed live connections of all the motorised valves. So we've got hot water motorised valve, underfloor heating, and then upstairs radiators valve. So all of them are wired back to here, and all these cables are completely, connections are exposed, which is not good. All these cables are just dangling around unfixed. Pipe work at the top starts being clipped there. So I think this is original pipe work, it's just been altered. I don't think he's had a whole new system put in the house. So that's where it was. And then as we get further down, it gets further and further off the wall. None of these are in any of the clips. So all this pipe work, all this messy pipe work, is just floating off the wall. None of it is fixed. All it's relying on is joints of these compression joints on valves, where it enters the actual cylinders, where it goes onto the manifold. It's taking the weight of all these pipes. So none of these pipes are supported anywhere apart from the joints out of the boiler and then into the accessories, into the the plumbing accessories. There's one there. Just floating around there. A little drip came out of there, then I just noticed. There you go. You see that water on my hand there? So this is leaking. That is leaking. All these joints are just like your push fits as well. So this whole weight of this copper is taken by a push fit joint. It's going to fail in a short period of time, definitely. Got all this. That's it. There's supposed to be a drain. Where does that go? Right. Right. So this is a drain. This is the condensation drain for the boiler. So that's okay. That'll go down there and go out the wall there. But this is also supposed to be take any pressure, I think, and then, you know, any liquid that comes out from pressure release, I think that actually goes downhill to go back up to go down out the wall. So that water's just going to sit in that and not, it's not going to get out there. It's going to back up. It's going to back up. So, you know, that's just flapping around also. When I've checked the motorised valves, what I noticed is even when that is switched off, so at the minute now, this has got no resistance on it. So it's open, yeah, the underfloor heating motorised valve. This one here has got some resistance on it, the radiator C, so you can hear it. So that's got some resistance, so that's closed, whereas this has nothing on it. So if I go over here and switch that off, I would have expected this motorised valve to close. No. So that means this motorised valve is permanently open. So when this boiler is when something is calling for heat, whether it's the hot water cylinder or whether it's the upstairs radiators, this will fire up, heat the heating loop, and water will be sent down that pipe because this valve is open to the underfloor heating. So indirectly, heat is being sent over to that manifold. You know, whether it's calling for heat or not over there, whether anything is calling for heat or not, this is open, so therefore water is going to flow down that and you're just basically losing energy. It's going to that, and if any of them actuators are open and stuck open or whatever, or even if you didn't have an actuator on it, it's just allowing water to flow through then to the house. But either way, you've got this pipe work here that's not insulated or anything, so water's circulating around that, and then, or down to that at least, and it's unnecessary. It's unnecessary. So this actually isn't doing anything. So this is here plumbed in on the pipework. We could actually get away with not using one of these if you wanted to, because we've got the actuators controlling the flow of the water. But again, you would get that loss of, you know, a little bit of loss anyway, of the water travelling down to here. It's going to try and make its way through there, but it's going to get stopped because the actuators are closed and the pump's not running. So so anyway, that isn't working the way it should. That should be wired to that UH8. Once that something calls for heat, it will then send current down the connections to this and open this. So we have actually specific connections inside this for a motorised valve, which is that white cable there. So so this is a valve there. So this connection here is for that motorised valve over there. So yeah, we have connections for that, which obviously isn't wired up properly. This looks like it's wired into a permanent supply in here, which is keeping it permanently open. So it's just useless, pointless even being there then. The way it's wired up, it's not used. Let's see, what else have I noticed that's a problem? I can't see any cylinder stat on here. If it needs it or not. So anyway, that's the first bit of all that. All the issues there. So then you've got unsupported pipe work again. Unsupported pipe work, all the way down to the manifold. So all the weight of that, see that, is loose. All the weight of that copper and water in the pipe work is all weighted on these two compression joints, which in turn is then weighted on these threaded joints going onto the manifold. So all that weight there is on these joints here, and then on the other end it's on the joints wherever it's connected to over there. So So the plumbing work is just terrible here anyway, and no wonder he's got leaks everywhere and drops in pressure. And then here we've got the cables now, so just completely unsupported, draped in a waste pipe clip. All just drapes on the floor there. So that's crap. So that's that issues there. And then this is what I was talking about before. So we've got a cover off the nest, so that's completely exposed live connections, which isn't good. And then this then controls the hot water cylinder, and then it also controls the radiators upstairs. And then they've wired the thermostat into the thermostat connections in here, but put it in the garage. And not understood the point of this is this is a thermostat and it needs to be in the area what we're heating. So again, someone coming in here not having a clue what they're doing, thinking it's maybe just a programmer, I don't know, so they've just put it in here, but actually it's reading the temperature of this garage. So again, electrician or plumber that don't know what they're doing. And now I've got the connector blocks, just exposed connections there. All this is untidy, you know, at least that could have been tidied up a little bit. So it's just all in all shoddy job, not functioning correctly as a normal system before we've even started with this Heatmiser stuff. When I'm pricing for a job, I am expecting this, basically. So it's not a case of we just come and screw 5 thermostats to the wall. Even if this pipe work is connected, filled and connected to this UH8, yeah, even if that is already done, it looks like it's done, but it isn't. I've got to disconnect things. I've got to make sure this heating system works without any of this first, then connect this into the system. So what this customer thought is no more than 2 hours work. For starters, I've lost 2 hours out of my day, say driving today, and it's took me an hour and a half just to get to the bottom of what is going on here. So I'm already at 3.5 hours and I've not a sausage prick so far. So that's just to put it in a little bit of context about why it'll cost more to get this done properly by a professional, because this is the kind of shit that we are up against.